Yo, 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 what is up, guys? Welcome back to the Kickash Podcast. We are here today, sadly not live, but I had a couple minutes scattered throughout my day, so I wanted to sit down and recap and kind of gather my thoughts on WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. Obviously, if you were with me, I did a watch along for WrestleMania Night 2, which was very fun. I appreciate you guys for popping in and watching along with me, or if you have chimed in on the replay or watched the replay, I appreciate that as well. I got a couple messages on Twitter from some people, so I appreciate that as well. Very cool. But yeah, it's very fun. I definitely want to do more watch-alongs in the future. Want to add and increase the overall vibe with the channel. Just add some more production stuff and get better at it myself. Like I said, that's what I've been working on kind of behind the scenes. So definitely want to incorporate that. Get some more things. Some other like. I hate saying content creators, but some other channels, once you get to like a certain level, you can get like fun emojis and stuff. So I want to get to that point, just like kind of like long term goals. So I think that'd be pretty cool and pretty fun. But regardless, I appreciate you guys for popping in. And this video obviously is going to be focusing solely on WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2, but there has been some fallout in Pat McAfee show did air, and I am airing. I am recording after the Pat McAfee show. I think they just wrapped up, actually, if I'm not mistaken. But they had Sam Roberts on as the my dog just hit my camera. But they did have they did have Sam Roberts wrapping it up there at the end. So it was pretty interesting. Pat had Paul Heyman on there and John Cena, which I thought Cena's interview with Pat McAfee was very interesting. So I do want to touch on that as well. He gave us a little bit of information. Obviously, he saved the bulk of it and the reasonings why for Raw, which he referenced that he will be on Raw tonight. So I thought that was pretty newsworthy in and of itself. I wasn't sure if he was advertised for Raw, first of all, or if he was going to hold out until SmackDown, which technically, he is the champion on SmackDown, but, it is the Raw after Mania, which is a big deal. And it's still WrestleMania season, like the tail end of it, right? So they still get away with that. And then, I mean, if nothing else, it's fucking John Cena. You know what I mean? So Dude can show up wherever he wants, right? So I think it is pretty cool that he's going to be on Raw tonight, which I'm curious to see if we actually do get information from him or if it's just a setup for SmackDown and which I'm sure they will want to carry over into SmackDown. I'm not even sure where SmackDown is going to be, but I'm obviously they're going to want a cliffhanger, and this has to just be the beginning, right? The dude won the freaking championship, so it's not like, even though he did mention that he's going to take the title and retire with it and make them essentially start fresh, which I'll again reference here in a second. I don't see it happening that soon, right? He at least is going to commit to his last year in wrestling. That's the whole purpose of this last tour. So I don't see even his heel character persona taking that away, or maybe so. Maybe he does come out tonight on Raw and declares that he accomplished his goal and he is set to retire. And maybe that's the setup. Maybe that's what it comes out to say. And he says pretty much, F you guys, I won the 17th championship. I did what I said I needed to do in record time, and I'm out. And then as he's trying to retire, maybe Cody Rhodes interrupts him or someone else interrupts him who sets up the feud going forward. I'm wondering if he's going to be at Backlash. I don't know if obviously Backlash is going to be headlined and heavily featured by Missouri's own Randy Orton. It's airing live at the time in the future in the Enterprise Center in St. Louis, Missouri. And Randy Orton is all over the graphic itself, which is super dope. It's a really cool poster that they have. All right, so for the visual folks who are watching on YouTube, I'll put up the poster here, which is pretty sick, right? Look at that. It's so dope. I might actually end up buying that if they sell them on WWE Shop because I fucking love it. It's obviously, well, if you're not looking on YouTube and if you're only listening to, and shout out to our audio listeners, it is Randy Orton in the center with red lighting on the sides and, of course, vipers. The viper gimmick, right, with snakes surrounding his face. And his eyes are illuminated red as well, which is pretty dope. But like I said, a minute ago, it's airing out of Missouri, right? So he is going to be heavily featured in this pay-per-view, PLE, depending on where your market is. And if you're still out there, or if you're one of those people out there buying like or spending $45, $50, whatever it is, on these PLEs, pay-per-views. I guess it would be a pay-per-view at that point. Please don't. Please find a way to stream it on Netflix at this point, or through Peacock, whatever way you are able to stream it. Please find a way, because it just hurts my heart to think some people are still spending that much money on it. Because Jesus, it's just. And I get with AEW where there's no other way for them to stream it, but WWE is streaming it, so please find a way. I know. And props to you for still spending your hard-earned money to do so, but it just hurts my heart. Like I said. But John Cena actually is, I did look it up as well, John Cena is, in fact, featured to be at the Backlash pay-per-view PLE as well, which will be his first and last Backlash. His first since, not his first ever, obviously, but his first since 2009, which is insane to think about, and his last due to him retiring at the end of this year. He did reference on the Pat McAfee show also the potential of him coming back. Pat had asked him, what if it's 2-3 years from now, you're winning an Emmy, whatever it is, and they ask you for one more match, or the situation arises, and Cena was like, no. He said, I'm not in it for the money. Pretty much, essentially, the guys to do it at that point are in it for a payday, and he has done well with his money. He's been smart with his money. Wrestling has done well to him, and I'm not even counting. Like, he could live a couple of lifetimes off of the money he made just from wrestling, right? Probably just the merch money alone, not even counting his contracts. And when you think about the fact that this man has made a handful of movies now at this point and TV series, it's just fucking crazy. No hate, it's just that it's actually praise, right? And respect, because that's you only wish to be that financially safe, right? That's one, people say money doesn't bring happiness. Maybe not happiness, but it does bring relief. You know what I mean? And it does bring a sense of a peace of mind in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? It takes a lot of other stressors and factors off of the table. And bless him for being able to be at that point. Not that he wasn't years ago, but especially, now that he's ready to get closer and closer to retirement, that he's able to, and that he's cognizant of the fact that he is a couple steps slower than he was 10 years ago, which he referenced on the Pat McAfee show. He stated that he had told himself and promised himself that once he realizes he's a couple steps slower, that he will take a hard look at himself, and he will get back to what he appreciated and what he respected in the industry to begin with, and that was knowing when to step aside and knowing when to hang it up, essentially, and to call it a day. And he will be doing that. And if that's the case, and I'm sure it will be, props to him, because it's still got to be hard to do so, right? And I'm sure right now it's a little bit easier to say because he doesn't have to do it yet, but I'm sure come December it's going to be very difficult for him. So regardless how we think the storylines are going, and I'll get to that here in a second when we get into night 2, but regardless of how this entire year plays out, it's nothing but respect for him. It's nothing but love for the fact that he did this to begin with. He could have very easily just hung it up. He could have very easily drawn it out. He could have been in and out. He could have taken it a lot of different ways. And the fact that he was cognizant of the fact that he's getting to that point, and maybe he could have gone another 2-3 years and it wouldn't have been terrible, but it wouldn't be the John Cena that we even knew, right? And we say we want about him, he can't wrestle, his 5 moves are doom or whatever. But even then, the matches were entertaining, right? And there was a reason that he was able to stay at the top for as long as he did. So it's still gonna suck, when he's gone in. We're still gonna feel that presence missing, even though his presence hasn't been there for a while now, for a few years. At least in the way that it happened. It's still gonna impact it, and it's still gonna hit, and especially knowing the fact that he's not gonna wrestle anymore. So when that time does come, it's going to be weird, right? And it's going to be fun to sit there and think of the past year that we got to witness, and to see how this all ended up playing out, which obviously we'll tie into. And may start off with that, but I like to go in chronological order. So I'll hold off on many more thoughts on Cena, since obviously we're just starting from the very beginning on his 17th reign here. But yeah, I would definitely recommend going out and finding the Pat McAfee portion of the show with John Cena specifically, he referenced his hair plugs. He confirmed that he did get a hair transplant, I guess, specifically, and he played it off and he joked about it. But I thought that was really cool and very self-aware of him. And I fucking knew, we talked about it in the live stream, in the watch log, that he was looking much thicker in the back of the dome, but props to him. And you know what? Fuck it, people go out there and get Botox and get tummy tucks, get like the chin pulled back. I don't know what that's called, but facelifts, all that shit, and whatever. So whatever you got to do to make you happy, whatever you're self-conscious about, don't go out there and like butcher yourself, but like it's your body, do what you want to do, type thing. But the fact that he did that, it was it was a really interesting listen. So it's definitely go out there and check that out if you haven't listened to it yet. But getting into night one of WrestleMania, and again, I'm not gonna obviously be going move by move, hole by hole, and shit like that. Just a brief synopsis. Because at this point we all know exactly what happened. I just had to get some stuff off my chest, right? The fact that Gunther and Jay were not going to be main eventing, it was pretty much a no-brainer that they were going to be opening the card, right? And I think it was obviously a solid move. The intro with Jay was very well done. He had put out there, I think it was like, I don't know if it was a tweet or something, but I remember him like kind of teasing for like Lil Wayne to come through, or for him to get like some type of like artist to kind of not necessarily, I guess, rap him down to the ring or sing him down to the ring or whoever it was going to be, but to at least accompany him. And Sexy Red was like, yo, I got you, or whatever. So I was kind of surprised that no one was there with him. I'm happy, especially with fucking how it turned out in the main event on night 2. But I just kind of expected someone to be there with him. So the fact that he was solo dolo, I appreciate it. But the entrance was dope, like that was the whole point, was the visual, the drone shots, all that good stuff. So props to them, and props to the Vegas crowd too. They delivered when they needed to and when they had a reason to, right? They were not a tame crowd. Sometimes, well, they were when they needed to be, right? And they were when the match kind of warranted it, which we'll get to here not too long. But yeah, like the fact that the match ended the way it did, though, is the thing that really stood out to me and shocked me the most. We all assumed Jay was going to win, right? That was pretty much a no-brainer the second he won, and the second it was confirmed that he was going to be facing off against Gunther. The fact that the match first started off with them not just fucking wailing on each other and Jay not going crazy on Gunther was surprising to me in retrospect. Like if my sibling, my family is out there getting wailed on and in a fucking bloodbath, and I'm tied to the ropes, the first time I see you is going to be on site, and I try to give him, benefit of the doubt in the couple weeks leading up to it after that he was holding off until he got to WrestleMania proper to avenge the loss on the biggest stage, and really make it like, physically and mentally and emotionally hurt Gunther, right? But man, I thought you needed to really fucking go out guns a-blazing, if you're Jay, and it did pick up, and it wasn't even down. It was just, to me, I probably would have tweaked it a bit, but that's just me, my thoughts on it. They probably did it that way for a specific reason, but I just probably would have tweaked that. And man, like having Gunther pass out to my dog is right here. Gunther pass out to Jay in the sleeper hole, which I think is pretty poetic, obviously, with that being Gunther's move. He passed out to his own, which in a way solidifies his own finisher and really puts over the severity of it, because even he passed out to his own finisher. So in a way, it makes sense, right? And the speed and the quickness of how he tapped out, I can appreciate that. But man, I don't feel like I would have had Gunther tap out, man. I don't know. It's just, again, I understand where we're at with Gunther and the fact that he may be bulletproof in some regard, but I just feel like we were still in the building phase for him and still in the dominant phase for him. Um, so for his character overall. So it's kind of I don't want to say rubbed me the wrong way, but I was just like, man, like that was a choice. But and we'll see how it plays out, and we'll see if Gunther is Jay's runner-up opponent, if it's a quick, run it back at Backlash, which generally it is. That's generally what happens at Backlash, or if Jay moves on, and that's what makes the Raw after Mania even more exciting because you never know if we're going to get a surprise return, debut, whatever the situation may be, if it's going to be a continuation of what happened at Mania or what. So we'll see. Next up, though, we had the War Raiders defending the WWE the World Tag Team Championships against New Day. The crowd was just not hitting on this one. Like I was saying just a couple minutes ago in regards to the fans reacting when they needed to. This one, they were just not feeling it. And I think that is a testament to the lack of consistency with the New Day. And that's no fault on their own. It's the fact that WWE pulled the trigger on turning the New Day. And I still think that was a good idea. I still think they should have. I'm actually advocating for that even more. The follow-up with it has just not been there. They had so many opportunities, right? And yes, they didn't have the most TV time, but they have been featured pretty frequently since then. And the segment with Big E, like I thought that was very impactful and it hit. I think that Big E could have been involved a little bit more. And even if it wasn't anything physical, which I'm not advocating or rushing that, like take as much time as you need, but just more verbal spat, you know what I mean? And back and forth. Biggie is there on the panels, he's talking about it. So I don't know. It's just something's just not aligning there with me. And I wish that they would be able to figure it out. But I am hopeful that they win the tag team championships. I still think that WWE should have one set of tag team champions floating back and forth and between Raw and SmackDown instead of two separately, because in my opinion, if they were only going to have one set of tag titles defended, they should have chose the SmackDown titles. No disrespect to the Raw talent, but the story was it had more substance on the Raw or on the SmackDown side, rather, just more like built-in backstory with multiple teams. So it was just an interesting choice. Not saying it was necessarily wrong. I just would have went with SmackDown in my opinion. Next up, we had Jade Cargill facing off against Naomi, and this one I had Naomi winning. Man, I figured it was gonna probably end up being Jade Cargill, but I just thought with the direction they were taking Naomi in, you could have found a way to have Jade lose, and then obviously extend the feud with it. And maybe there is a way, but especially with her new music, Naomi's new music, I thought that was pretty dope. It was very fitting, and I'm happy that they're moving away from the glow version of her. It just with the caution vibe that she's going for and all that, and like she's like unhinged type thing, you kind of want to play up on that. And her glow is very positive, and you don't want that shit to be positive. You want her to be beating asses and shit like that. So I'm happy they made those changes, and I'm happy they did that in time for WrestleMania. So props to them for that. The match itself, I a lot of people were shitting on it. I don't know. I enjoyed it for what it was. It's kind of what I expected, and I'm just still happy that both women got opportunity on the card, especially since it did not revolve around a championship specifically. So I'm very happy for that, and I'm hopeful that it gets follow up at Backlash, and not just thrown to the wayside. And I think with Bianca losing, spoiler alert, I think that adds even more layers and more juice to the story itself. So I am hopeful for that, and maybe that does play into Jade winning as well. Maybe Jade throws that in Bianca's face that she won at WrestleMania, Bianca did not, and you can kind of go from there. Or maybe Naomi brings that up. Maybe Naomi is like, "Yo, like you're so worried about your friendship that you weren't focused. You ended up losing a Mania. Look, Jade won. Da da da." I don't know. There's a lot of different ways that they can take it. So I think that we are going to continue this going forward. I would have loved for Naomi to get a win, but obviously fucking love Jade. I've been here for her, getting her time, and yeah, very cool entrance too. I thought it's pretty cool. Some people thought it was corny or whatever, the weather report, but I thought it was dope. I thought it was dope. Next, we had the United States Championship match. LA Knight defending the title against Jacob Fatu. This one I ended up getting wrong. I'm pretty certain my final pick was that LA Knight was going to retain, but our guy Jacob Fatu came through. I was under the assumption, or under the idea that Solo was either going to interfere and cause Jacob Fatu the match so they can set up that dissension going forward, and not even dissension at that point, it'd be a breakup, and kind of have a different set of bloodline issues going on the side, opposed to Roman Reigns and whatever he's going to have going on with Paul Heyman and Punk and Seth going forward. But they didn't. And it was actually the opposite. Solo didn't even accompany Jacob to the ring. He came out with him on stage, hyped him up, was super happy for him, hugged him, all that good stuff. And then he went to the back. I'm pretty certain, yeah. Because I don't recall his name after that. And I remember thinking, okay, yeah, like Jacob he's gonna go at this by himself, and I don't know. They still got me, man. I guess my wrestling brain is just so programmed to expect a run in, but it was a straightforward, clean match, and it was very fucking good too. I think it was like 10 minutes or something. Well, with the ending sequence, the counter, and Knight had countered the double jump topper moonsault into the BFT, and that shit was just brutal, like just so like perfectly done. And LA Knight doesn't. I'm not gonna say doesn't. LA Knight just flat out does not. I was gonna take that a different route. Get the love that he should athletically in the ring. People say he botches some stuff and messes things up, and okay, whatever. Like whatever. Who's to say, right? But the fact that he went out there and fucking kicked ass with Jacob Fatu at WrestleMania, I think speaks a lot. So props to them. I'm super happy actually that Jacob Fatu won the championship. I was again thinking with the whole Solo thing. My thought after that is it allows Jacob to be free of any championships and allows him to enter in the Money in the Bank ladder match at the PLE, potentially win and just fucking run rampant and go crazy with the briefcase and really fuck around with the champions, right? And tease cash-ins and stuff like that and just make that a story in and of itself. So that was kind of where I was going with him not winning the US championship. He still could do that and fuck around with the champion still, fuck around with John Cena. Like, can you imagine Jacob Fatu and John Cena interacting if he has the briefcase and he's the US champion? He could reference John Cena being the champion with the open challenge and stuff like that. They could do title for title. There's so many different things, right? That's just spitballing. Obviously he can go on Raw and him and Jey Uso, obviously that writes itself right there, getting way ahead of myself, and we'll see if Jey is still the champion at that point. Some people are thinking he may have like a month title reign or something like that. I don't think he's going to have like too long of a reign. Definitely not past SummerSlam, maybe into Money in the Bank. But I don't know. We will see. I wanted to make sure. Okay, I was about to say, let me find out my mic is muted. Next we had Rey Fenix, the other Rey, facing off against El Grande Americano. Rey Mysterio was injured, therefore he could not compete and was not cleared. So Fenix filled in for Mysterio, facing off against El Grande Americano. Dope entrance. Such a cool entrance with like the old timey like orange filmed screen. Very cool stuff. The match ended with the loaded mask. El Grande had a metal plate in his trunks. Threw that sucker in the mask, was prepared for Phoenix when Phoenix ran the ropes, went to kick him, and connected with the kick, but obviously with the kick, hit the metal plate, messed up his ankle. El Grande was able to, it's just so funny, he was able to capitalize on that and perform the headbutt onto Phoenix, again, containing the metal plate still in the mask the entire time, getting the 1, 2, 3 on Rey Fenix after that. A very good, I take that back. It had the potential to be a very good match, like 4 or 5 stars type level, if you want to rate it that way. To me, it was just an issue of time. I feel like if they had doubled, even just another 5, 6, 7 minutes, damn, I mean, if they had double, like fuck, get out of here. Um, I think it would have been that much better, you know. And they were just only a victim of time, and the match that they were able to deliver and the time frame that they did, I thought was very fun, you know. And I've seen on Twitter that people were down on Phoenix losing like that, and the fact that he lost, period. And bro, like, this is a dude who a couple months ago we were all bitching about the fact that he was locked in Guantanamo Bay, some people were calling it, right? And that he wasn't able to wrestle. The AEW wasn't using him. Tony Khan was just like holding him hostage over there, and he's just sending out all these tweets and stuff like that. And now he's fucking wrestling El, El Grande Americano, you know, maybe potentially Chad Gable at WrestleMania. Like, come on, dude. And his brother had a match the next night. Like, come on. So, I don't know, man. It's not like they went out there and fucking buried the dude and he's done for and anything like that. The exact opposite. He got a great entrance. They showcased him exactly how they should, in my opinion, for the level that he's at. They didn't overdo it, make you think he's the next big thing, and they didn't undersell him either. So, the outrage to that was just, I mean, it wasn't that much outrage, but just the pushback in general was just kind of surprising to me. Next match was the match that I'm not gonna say we all have been waiting for. Some people were dreading it, but I was waiting for it, and I was very curious to see how it was gonna play out. Tiffany Stratton, our WWE Women's Champion, defending her title against Charlotte Flair, the Royal Rumble winner. We're not going to go through all the backstory because we've obviously already been through all that. The real remaining question was, what is this gonna look like? And this shit was a fucking slugfest, man. Charlotte really put her through it. I will say, before I get ahead of myself and forget, I really dug the entrance for Tiffany. I thought it was pretty cool. The idea was, you know, we're trying to see which Tiffany it was. And I thought that was really cool. It was a really cool concept. She had stated, I think it was on the press conference afterwards, that she had thought of the idea in NXT, and they were able to do it, didn't come to fruition for whatever reason. And she was so happy it did, because obviously she was able to save it for the WrestleMania card. So very cool. It was, and it makes sense, right? Like it plays into her whole Barbie gimmick and everything like that. So I thought it was really cool. Some people thought it was cringe. I thought it was cool, and I'm not even like a big pink or Barbie girl or whatever. So, and it's fun seeing her creativity. You know, someone who wasn't a diehard wrestling fan, I believe, um having that creativity, you know. It was like Bianca Belair, like she was out there in the bodybuilding world, out there in tutus and you know, like really providing the entertainment aspect of it, not even realizing she'd be the perfect wrestler, and look where she is now. So back to the match though, I thought it was, look, was it like a 5-star wrestling classic? No, but I thought it was what it needed to be. I thought Tiffany was really put through the ringer by Charlotte. She was really, it wasn't like she was being like sandbagged or like stiffed or anything like that. It was a tough, you know, and physical match. And look at Tiffany's face, right? Swollen, big bruise already forming on her forehead. She had like a bloody lip at one point, or maybe that was just the blood from whatever happened in her mouth from the damaged teeth. But your girl went through it, man. But she still came out the victor, and I think that it said a lot, you know, for the Charlotte character as well, who's kind of been put through the ringer lately. And again, I'm not going to rehash everything that we've seen in this build, but even in the end, you know, when the 1, 2, 3 was going down, it's not like she did a kick out on 3.1 or 3.5 or anything like that. She stayed down, and she went out there and carried the match in some ways, but really sold when she needed to as well. So and again, this is just me, you know, my opinion coming as a fan, not anyone who's been in the business, right? So I just appreciate that, and I obviously, you know, Charlotte gets a lot of shit and a lot of hate. But I thought it was a good match, and it was a match that really needed to happen. And I'm very intrigued to see what happens after this. After this, though, was the main event. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and CM Punk. Fucking love the entrance for CM Punk coming out with the gray zip up hoodie, the yellow gear, reminiscence of his time coming out with Paul Heyman at Mania. Obviously, Living Color was there performing for him, which was just so dope. And the video package that they put together for him, splicing it in from previous Punk to current day Punk, just so beautiful, man. There was, I don't know if it's a video, but he's uh referenced, I saw somewhere that he got emotional, watching the video package backstage. I didn't see exactly what he said on it, but I want to and go back and check that out. But yeah, man, I just think that the setup for it was so, I mean, and Seth Rollins had a really dope entrance too, right? But obviously I'm biased, but the Punk entrance, man, it just really stood out and meant a lot because that was the whole point of Punk being in the main event, was the journey and how he got there. And the fact that it was kind of like a quick retrospect from the beginning of his WWE career to where he is now, finally in the main event for WrestleMania. I dig it. And look, I was one of those people who said that, like, I wasn't like shitting on it or anything, but I was like, if I had the option, I probably would have held out on him main eventing WrestleMania period until he is going for the actual championship. But you still do have the case and are able to make the case for, okay, yeah, he main evented, but it was WrestleMania night 1. So when he is going for the championship in the future, he can wrestle or main event WrestleMania night 2 for the championship. So I think you still can play around with that. Maybe I'm just, I'm just like nitpicking at this point, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy it meant something to him, and it wasn't like a consolation. Oh yeah, you're main eventing WrestleMania, but it's night 1. Like no, like it's still WrestleMania. It's still a big deal. It's still the biggest like night of the year. Like it's 2 nights, right? But it's still the biggest event in the year. So yeah, we could be like pick semantics about it, but it still is what it is. And like I bet any wrestler out there, like for instance, the surprise for Randy Orton, right? If you were to ask him, which we'll get to, if they needed him to fill in, I'm not saying his name for a reason, to fill in the last minute, but it was the main event, but it was only WrestleMania night 1. It wasn't WrestleMania night 2. Are you okay with that? Fuck yeah, he'd be okay with that. You know what I mean? Like get the fuck out of here. So I'm obviously very stoked for Punk, and I'm happy that it happened. And even afterwards, he was emotional. He said, "I did it," or "I fucking did it," or something like that. So very happy for him. On a personal level, the match itself, I think, played out so well. I was in the ball camp of Seth Rollins winning very, very early on. I remember talking about it. I've said it. I can't wait to go back to work on tomorrow night actually and give shit to my coworkers. But they were like, when they were like, "Who you got?" In the triple threat, I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be Rollins," and I laid out the reasons why, which if you've listened to me, you've heard. And they're like, "No, no, you're crazy, man." I was like, "No, no, just wait, just wait." And here it is. Now, I did not predict this though. I did not predict Paul Heyman turning on Rollins. And I believe Elvis did. Shout out Elvis. And a couple other people did as well. But the way they did it though was so well done. The fact that it was that moment in the match where Paul Heyman had to decide. He grabbed the chair and slid the chair over to or slid it over to Punk. Obviously, you're thinking that he's gonna land with Punk. He kicks Punk and the little gonads. Didn't mean to say little. I don't know. Kicks him below the belt, gives him a low blow. Reigns is getting cocky. He's like, yeah, that's what I thought. Paul Heyman drops down, does the same thing, but instead of he does the same thing to Roman Reigns, but the visual for it, the visual is what led to the continuation, right? Because it set up the spot for where Reigns finally had the opportunity to get revenge on Rollins, and I loved Rollins because Rollins just sold it so perfectly with his face, man. He never once turned around. So Rollins was struggling to get to his feet, and Reigns had the opportunity to smash Rollins in the back with the chair, just like Rollins did to him twice now. Shield-esque. But the fact that Rollins knew, but he didn't know. It's like he was kind of weary, but he kind of glanced up a couple times to look at the screen, and just the way you could see in the background Heyman setting up to then just turn on Reigns. Again, man, it was just so brilliant and just so well done. Obviously, it leads to the Rollins win, and now it's just a matter of why him and why. He did give a little bit of reasoning on Pat McAfee, which I didn't hear that whole thing. I essentially the gist of it was that Punk, like, neither of them looked out for him, essentially. So he's obviously going to explain it tonight, but neither his best friend nor his tribal chief looked out for him, and Rollins kind of warned him. So they're kind of going to go that route, which I think is going to be interesting, and it's going to be really cool to see the dynamic between Rollins and Heyman, because Rollins is probably one of the last people who needs a mouthpiece, but it's not going to be presented that way. It's going to mean more. And Heyman did tease on bringing someone else into the fold as well, and having a little bit more of a meet in their I guess group. So we will see. We will see if that ends up coming to fruition, if it ends up being a stable, or what that ends up looking like, or if it's just going to continue to be Seth and Heyman. Night two opened with a fan fucking tastic match, and that was the Women's World Championship match, the triple threat: Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. I got my prediction right on this one. Io retained, but my fucking goodness, guys. If you did not see this match, or if you haven't seen it yet, please go back and watch it. It was fantastic. The story in the match was amazing. Um, I just you gotta go back and watch that one. Just flat out, I can't even do it justice. But I'm happy that Io retained. I'm happy that she ended up keeping the title in the end. Her family ended up being there, which is really dope, and obviously it was a really cool moment for them to see her retain the championship on the biggest stage of them all. But I like too that, again, it was a clusterfuck how we got here in a lot of ways. But I like that it does extend the story and add more to the conundrum between Ripley and Bianca for the future. If that ends up being next year's WrestleMania, the one-on-one match with them, or if it ends up being whatever it ends up being and actually taking place, it's gonna have even more history to play off of now. I just wish it didn't have to be as like contrived as it was, but it was still like the match was just fantastic. So props to them, props to whoever put it together, props to all the women involved. It was just incredible. So please go out and watch this match, guys. Um, especially the finish. I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen the match itself. Please go watch it. The next match, though, we had was Damian Priest facing off against Drew McIntyre in a Sin City street fight. This match was brutal. Pretty much what you expected, though, if I had to be honest. The end sequence, McIntyre performed a future shock DDT on Priest onto the steel chairs for a near fall. Priest then attempted an old school onto McIntyre, who sent Priest outside of the ring through two tables that were set up. I completely forgot that the tables were set up on the floor ringside. So when McIntyre pushed Priest, I was like, oh shit, and then he went through the table. So I was like, oh, thank God. But I completely forgot for a second. McIntyre was obviously able to recover in time for, or did I say McIntyre? I'm sorry, I meant Priest. Priest was able to recover and get back into the ring. For McIntyre to set up a just brutal claymore. So McIntyre set up a chair in between the middle and top turnbuckle ropes, wedged in between, and Priest was, I think he set up his, I'm pretty certain he had set up his, I forget how he positioned Priest, but he positioned him into a way where he was able to hit the Claymore onto Priest, which pushed him into the steel chair itself. So, very cool ending. You got to go check that one out too if you hadn't seen it. But I'm happy that McIntyre got the win. I think he needed the win here a little bit more than Priest, just to add more substance and more verbal ammo for him going forward, and more reasoning for him to get a potential title shot. So can you imagine if we end up getting McIntyre and Cena? The war of words, I think, on this one, or that one in particular, would be just surprisingly fire. Next up, we had Braun Baker defending his Intercontinental Championship against Penta, making his WrestleMania debut. Finn Balor and our guy Dominic Mysterio. This match was fun. I'm just I'm just gonna say it. That this match was pretty much what I expected it to be as well, and that was fun. I think they positioned Penta in a very good way. They showcased his highlights, and showcased why he's a big deal. His entrance was fire, again, pun intended. But man, the dude just looks like $1,000,000, bro. And I loved how when he was walking down the entryway, the little walkway, the little spitting fire thing was following him underneath of it. It was just really dope. So definitely check. I mean, yeah, definitely check this one out though if you haven't already. Uh, I I love the ending though, and I love, of course, I was happy I got my pick right. But I love them actually pulling the trigger on it. So the ending came when Penta performed a Mexican destroyer on Mysterio, but Carlito pulled Penta out of the ring, allowing Breaker to spear Carlito through the announce table outside. Was just fantastic. Balor performed a coup de grace on Breaker, but Mysterio performed a frog splash on Balor to win the title. So uh Balor had hit the coup de grace on Breaker. So you think, sorry, my this ad popped up. It's kind of distracting. So you're thinking, okay, fuck, here comes Finn. He's gonna get the 1, 2, 3. Finally, some redemption, right? He's just been on the losing end of so many matches lately. But no, our guy, Mysterio, almost said Ray. Our guy Dom came through, hit the frog splash, got the 1, 2, 3. And later on in an interview with Sam Roberts, he was like, "Oh no, I thought I thought I was hitting it onto Breaker, and I hit Breaker." So he's just fantastic. I can't wait to see what kind of champion he ends up being. Definitely go check out the interview that he did with Sam Roberts. I uploaded a small clip of it, him explaining the difficulty getting the mask off in his entrance at first, which is fantastic. He's got an answer for everything. Find out if he got his Wingstop chicken tendies or not. But yeah, it's in all seriousness, I the reaction that he got when he won the championship, I think is very telling. I'm really intrigued to see if it continues after the Raw after Mania is kind of another anomaly, right? So the real answer is going to come next week and the week after and the week after that on how the crowd reacts to Dom. If they continue supporting him like this, man, they're gonna have to pull the trigger on him being a good guy probably sooner than they want it. And that's credit to him for the work that he put in and the entertaining aspect that he really built into Dirty Dom. So I'm super fucking stoked for him. Makes me want to go buy some of his merch. And I can't wait to see what he does tonight on Raw and what he does going forward with the IC Championship. So props to him. Next up, we have Randy Orton's open challenge, which did not take long. There's a lot of speculation if it was going to be Rusev, Aleister Black, even Solo Sikoa. A lot of different possibilities. I I missed this prediction going into it. It and it got me. I was really shocked. It was none other than Joe Hendry. WWE believes, and out came Joe Hendry. The setup that they did for the entrance was fantastic. They zoomed in on the entrance, and there was like sliding doors, and the doors were opening, so it was kind of like a silhouette. Dude turned around, obviously doing his thing with a smile. His music hits. He got a really good reaction. A lot of people knew him. There's always that fear, right? Almost all wrestlers say it in interviews. There's that fear of it. Is anyone going to know who I am? Is it going to be crickets? And no, but definitely wasn't. So I'm very happy for him. It was a really cool moment. There's a lot of, and again, watching it live, I was like, bro, like, really? Like, this is the TNA champion. Like, you're really going to make him look like this? And not that they, like, shit out on him and just, like, buried him or anything like that, but I was like, man, could he at least gotten a little bit more offense in? Um, and I don't know. I'm still torn. Um, but man, I get it. Like just having the opportunity to be out there at WrestleMania is, and again, obviously, if you asked him if he wants that moment, fuck yeah, regardless of what it is, you still got you go out there, and that sets you up great for the future. But man, I just wish they would have given him a little bit more. And I guess I understand why, but he's the TNA World Champion, bro. Like, I don't know, like, put some respect. But I guess I get it. But it was a cool moment, very cool moment, and I'm very happy for him. Very cool that this dude really just put in the work, and it propelled him all the way to a WrestleMania match with Randy Orton. even if it was only 3 minutes, but still. In the fucking moment like he's gonna have now, like that's gonna carry on. Like that him smiling and then all of a sudden the RKO out of nowhere. It was just fantastic. So very good setup to everyone involved. Next we had AJ Styles taking on Logan Paul. And for this one it kind of didn't live up exactly to as like I guess I don't know. I don't want to say it's good because I thought it was still a good match, but I think I expected a little bit more, as crazy as that sounds. But it was still a good match, and I think Logan Paul's entrance was pretty cool with the drone or whatever. The moment that the match ended up setting up, which I wasn't really expecting, was the inclusion of Karrion Kross. I mean, obviously, like we've seen what Karrion has been doing on TV lately, but the fact that it played such a heavy hand in the finish with AJ not wanting to take the brass knucks, and that ended up costing in the match with Logan Paul winning. That sets up a future with AJ Styles and Karrion Kross, and Karrion has cut a fantastic, I guess, promo if you want to call it, with against Sam Roberts. So definitely go check that out. It's floating around on Twitter. So, and I think it's on the Wrestlemania recap as well. So definitely check that out. Dude's just so impassioned, and I have been touting him for years now. They need to do something and take him seriously, man. I've been on his bandwagon for a long time, so hopefully they take this as an opportunity to do so. But in the matchup right before the main event, we had the WWE Women's Tag Team Championship match. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez facing off against Lyra Valkyria in a mystery partner since Bayley was apparently taken out. Again, I don't know what's going on with the whole Bayley situation. I'm going to hold off on being upset about it until I know more information, because if what they're saying is true and that was the plan the entire time to kind of pull Bayley at the last second, I think that's horseshit. So if that's the case, I will definitely be upset about that and will unleash at that time. But until then, I will refrain from being too upset. But if even if like Bayley, like obviously I hope she's not her, right? But I don't know. I'm gonna hold off before I get into it, because I'm gonna the more I talk about it, the more I'm going to get upset, and I don't want to get upset until I know the truth. So we'll see, or as much information as we can get. But this set up the return for Becky Lynch, which is what we were predicting in the chat and the watch along. The match was fine. It was what it was. I'm very intrigued to see what they do with Lyra being a double champion now, because in the NXT world that is frowned upon and you cannot do that. So I don't know. Thank God Lyra is not in NXT. She's in the main roster, because Ava would be. I mean, who knows? Maybe we start off all with Ava, or maybe Lyra is backstage, walking with her and Becky, and all of a sudden here comes Ava, and she's like, "You gotta." We gotta break that up. You can't have two titles. So I'm just saying, watch out, guys. Watch out, Lyra. No, but Becky looked like a fucking $1,000,000. She looked damn near the exact same Becky Lynch that she was in. What was it, 2019? The Man is what we got last night. So props to her for fucking staying in insane shape. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited to see what Becky Lynch does going forward, to see how long they end up keeping the tag titles. I don't think they're going to keep it that long. I don't know if this is going to set up a Bayley like heel turn or anything like that, or what this means. And it could, it could set up a pissed off Bayley, and she comes to exact revenge on Becky. And I think that would be a fun feud, because Becky is the one who took her spot and all that stuff. So, and the history that they have with the Four Horsewomen, so that could be really fun. So again, I'm going to hold off on the whole Bayley thing until I get more information. In the main event, though, we do have. Should I? All right. So I was not going to talk about it, but we had Stone Cold Steve Austin come out, right? And my God, allegedly, he had a couple Steve Weisers in the back. There's a hilarious video that I posted that, and shout out to, I tagged the content creator's name, but he had a video. Stone Cold was driving the ATV and supposed to drive it up onto the ramp, onto the aisle, and then drive it down to the ramp. We were wondering why, or what was taking so long with the delay of Austin. It's because the dude drove right by the ramp and pretty much like drove into the side of the entrance ramp. Fucking hilarious. You gotta go check it out. It's not even a cheap plug, but I have it on my feed here on the channel. But between that and after he made his lap around the ring, he went around and crashed into the barricade, and then this lady just falls backwards, which is just so fucking dramatic. So go check that out, guys, if you haven't seen it. But they brought Austin out there to officially give the night 2 attendance, which was 63,225. He did this bit where he wanted to individually count them to, he didn't necessarily say recount, I don't think, but to get an official tally, which allowed the what chance. So those will never die. But yeah, it was just a way to get Austin out there. And I even said it in my watch along. I was like, okay, so we saw Austin here, so that means we're not getting him in the main event, which was a sign. Leading into that main event, we have Cody Rhodes, our undisputed champion, defending his championship against the 16-time world previous former heavyweight champion, John Cena. And we all know the story and the lack thereof going into it. The big question was not if we were going to see The Rock, but what role was The Rock going to play? And is it going to involve potentially Paul Heyman and Seth Rollins from night 1? Is it going to involve any other addition? Is it just going to be The Rock himself? Is Stone Cold then going to come out and seek revenge for Cody? What's going to happen? We get Travis Scott. That's what's gonna happen. I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I couldn't fucking believe it. So we're going through the match. It is what it is. It was a fine match, you know. It was kind of what I expected to. Not terrible, but it was fine. You know, we're making our way. We get the ref bump, which is, you know, the sign, and everyone's waiting. Right, the ref goes down. That's the moment. Travis Scott's music hits. That dude, fucking, I guess he grew up on The Undertaker and not Mick Foley, you know, Cactus Jack, because that dude took fucking forever to make it down there. And just the fact that he pulls the referee out of the ring, you know, not even to set up a distraction, but to delay a 3 count for Cody. Cody gets his revenge on Travis for knocking him out at the Elimination Chamber. Not really, but just fucking socking him in the face. Hits the Cody Cutter. Or I'm sorry, the Crossroads onto Travis Scott. But it set up the ending where we had Cody hitting the Crossroads on Scott, right? So backtracking a little bit. Cena interrupted, attempts to strike Rhodes with the title belt. Rhodes blocks it, took the title. Cena then performed a low blow because that is just the end all be all. Strikes Rhodes in the head with the belt, and that is how Cena retains, and not even retains, but that's how he wins number 17. That's how he gains, is the word I was looking for, his place in history. He is now the 17th world heavyweight champion. He is the most winningest champion, you know, officially and unofficially. But it's the way they got there with Travis Scott, and there was no, I was still waiting. I was still like, okay, The Rock's gonna come out. Like, there's like, it was kind of like, okay, but like you're still just kind of waiting and nothing. Like, and this is coming from someone who didn't want The Rock to be involved, period, and thought that The Rock was actually taking away from it. But the fact that The Rock had inserted himself and made this entire past year all about the story of The Rock being involved, The Rock being a huge factor in John Cena turning heel, and just not being involved on the road to WrestleMania at all, period, since Elimination Chamber. Okay, fine. You have a busy schedule, sure. The fact that he wasn't at WrestleMania at all, it's like, what the fuck are we doing? It makes sense now why John Cena didn't reference The Rock hardly at all. If Cena did, I think he did maybe in his last promo or one of the last ones, and Cody did once, but it was nowhere near any substance into Cena's reasoning, really. I just don't understand why, not why the Cena turn needed to happen, because I still agree with that. I just wish it, you know, some things could be tweaked a little bit, but why The Rock had to be involved at all, and what's the whole purpose of the 3 with the thing, you know, the slicing of the throat and all that stuff? Did we ever get, like, figure out or get an answer as to what The Rock handed Cody from the Raw after Mania last year when it was, he handed something to him. It was small, right? We all thought possibly a watch. What was it? Was it the watch? Was it the watch that? Well, no, because he would have given it to Cody. So I don't know. Like, what does that not matter? It's very frustrating. And again, I'm gonna wait and see how this next month plays out, and to see if we get any more answers from Cena himself. But man, it was just kind of horseshit, and it was really a lame finish, if I'm frank with you, and really a bullshit finish. And again, I've said this multiple times. It could have been Travis Scott, which it was. It could have been Karrion Kross. It could have been Logan Paul. It could have been Cardi B. It could have been whoever you wanted to include in that main event. It could have been Dustin Rhodes. It could have been Brandy. It could have been whomever. That's not the way you end a WrestleMania main event, bro. Like, I was expecting some tomfoolery, if you will, because I just kept thinking about the WrestleMania 17 main event, right, with Vince McMahon and Steve Austin. So I was expecting something like that. And again, we shouldn't project something in our minds as fans and then get disappointed when it doesn't happen the way we projected it. That's not what this is. It's the fact that Travis Scott, who is not involved in it at all, really, besides, okay, he was there when the turn happened, but even then he shouldn't have been there. Like, he shouldn't have been involved. My point with this is, and my point with what happened in the main event of WrestleMania Night 2 is the same point of when John Cena turned heel to begin with. It should have just been, and now it shouldn't even been The Rock in the ring. It should have just been about John Cena in that moment, period. Just John Cena and Cody Rhodes, period. End of story. And the same thing should have happened in WrestleMania Night 2. Travis Scott should not have been there. And that was my point. I was saying could have been Travis Scott, could have been anyone related to Cody Rhodes, any relation. It doesn't matter. Like, it could have been any wrestler, any celebrity, past, present. It doesn't matter. It should not have included anyone. It was just kind of a horse shit finish. And it just really downplayed the whole significance of the title. And maybe I just cared too much of it. And I will give credit where credit is due, though. Cena said he wanted to kill wrestling, right? He wanted to ruin wrestling for the fans. He wanted to take this championship and just end it and end the lineage and make them start fresh. So maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe he was right about the entire thing, and he told us in one of his first few promos since turning bad. He told us what he was going to do and that he was going to ruin wrestling for us. So he ruined the main event. So job well done. He did what he said he was going to do. And I guess we will just have to wait and see what this means going forward. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hold out. He is advertised to be at Backlash, so I'm very intrigued. And my early prediction, you heard it here first, is that Randy Orton comes out to stand up for Cody Rhodes and gets pissed off by what John Cena did in the main event. And he's going to call out Cena at Backlash. And again, I already said where Backlash is hailing from, so makes sense there. We already definitely know the history between Randy Orton and John Cena. So kind of checks off a lot of boxes there for me. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, though. I will be jumping off here and very excited to see the Raw after Mania tonight, though, and to see how a lot of stories play out. And let me know what you guys think in the comments, too. That stand and deliver content. Maybe not tonight, maybe coming up, but time, guys. Thank you for popping onto the channel. If you haven't already, liked, subscribe, all that good stuff. I truly appreciate it. But until next time, guys, thank you so much, and y'all stay safe out there. Take care and enjoy some wrestling. Bye, guys.